Okay, the floor
No,
is
no,
yours.
there's nothing to apologize. I mean, that's awkward, an awkward situation. The conditions are pretty weird and pretty unusual, but it seems that this is the new normal. So we need to think how we can use the new conditions. Strong wind and strong sun in Elafonisos is turned from an enemy to an ally, but that's another discussion about how we can turn it to a benefit of the island. My contribution, I will try to raise 3, maximum 4 points. Hopefully they're useful. If there are any questions, please come back to me, or if there's any time left, let's try to see if we can have a discussion about it. My first point is that for many years, protection of the environment, or what we used to call wildlife biodiversity, whatever, seemed to be a kind of luxury that was a topic of the rich West, while the southern, the poorer South had other priorities. This thing has changed, not because the South is richer, but simply because the protection of biodiversity and the protection of ecosystems, and especially coastal ecosystems, is the most efficient and the most necessary term, the most necessary measure we need to take to protect ourselves, our investments, our infrastructures from the impacts of climate change. So starting from a totally different perspective, talking about the impacts of climate change, the climate crisis actually, we know, and that's what science says, is not an obsessed conservationist who says so. It's scientists coming from the climate sector saying that the most efficient way to protect the Earth, to protect the life on Earth, human life on Earth, because life will still be there after the climate disaster, is to make sure that marine environment and forests stay healthy. And to do that, we need to go into full protection if in big pieces of marine areas, important ecosystems, and the same applies to forest ecosystems, forestal ecosystems. In particular, coastal ecosystems, and that includes sand dunes and Posidonia meadows, Posidonia oceanica meadows, are the most important regulators that protect protect us actually from erosion, but also from the rise of the seas. Just to add another scientific element, what we call climate crisis is not something virtual, is not something that happens in other parts of the world, is not something that happens only in Central America where typhoons are stronger and bigger and more frequent. If you see the numbers from the National Observatory of Athens, for instance, also recorded by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the average increase of temperature in our part of the world, in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, is much higher than anywhere else. You remember, for instance, that all the global agreements, conventions to protect us from the climate disaster are trying to make the best effort to reduce the increase of the average temperature of Earth to 1.5 Celsius. We hope that we'll manage to reduce it to 2 degrees Celsius. Truth is that this temperature, 1.5, is already reached this increase in our part of the world. So we're there, and this is only going to get worse. So the role, the importance, and the value of marine ecosystems and coastal ecosystems like sand dunes, like Posidonia meadows, is much more important than it used to be. That's my first point. The second point is that you're doing an excellent work. You are doing a noble work. You should not feel alone on that. There's many of us around the country and around the world doing similar things in other parts, in other regions, and there's also experience. You can see, for instance, a similar case. There's lots of similarities and differences too, the island of Chrysi in Crete, how they're trying to, they are managing to find this balance between tourism and an important and unique ecosystem that is protected, but it's also important for the reasons I explained before. You can see what are the lessons and the learnings from other parts like Zakynthos, the marine protected area for the National Marine Park for the city. What works well, what doesn't work well, how did we get there? You can also get the learnings of what works, what doesn't work in other parts of Western Peloponnese. You can also share learnings and best practices either from Greece or from other parts of the world where there is experience. So my second point is that none of us, I mean, we need all of us in this work. There's none of us who cannot find a place in this. So let's put aside our egos and differences and let's try and focus on what is the best we can get from each other to move this agenda forward. Talking about this agenda, I'm talking about the necessary combination where local people understand that the protection of the environment is the best way for them to thrive and not the other way around. For decades, what we've been living, what we've been experiencing is that the protection of the environment was perceived as a problem, as a hurdle to development. Getting to my third point, so my second point was we don't reinvent the wheel, we try to identify best practices and find colleagues, work with each other to see how we can move faster. The third point is there is already a process running all around Greece. All the areas that belong are registered in the Network 2000, Nature 2000 network, are including the new marine areas included in this this list lately, very recently, I would argue. There is a need for special environmental studies. There will be management plans. This is an opportunity not to be missed by all of you. You need to be involved into that, not after that. You need to be involved in the shaping. There needs to be involvement, and you need to play a leading role in involving the local communities in participating on that. There is no way that even the best management plan to work if this is not engaging timely and properly local communities. We've done this mistake several times, and we have experienced the results, and they are not good. So local communities need to understand why there's a benefit and not just an obligation to move to that direction. They need to understand what are the pros and cons, what is the things that they need to do to be doing more, what is the thing they need to stop doing, because this is destroying the uniqueness of the area. So you need to make sure that at the key stages, you are there, you participate there. So you're not set into you don't feel that you are trapped, you're set by surprise, and there's a management plan that popped up from Pandora's box, and you don't know what it's all about, and there's what is this, what is that, I don't know what we're talking about. My last point, which is related to the previous one, is that you all need to work together to understand what are the benefits and the possible restrictions from this, the thing it's now called either circular economy or sustainable development or whatever you name it. I mean, there's plenty of nomenclature around that. But I'm talking about the need to understand that natural resources are not endless. We need to be not just cautious, but we need to find ways to make sure that they are there forever and we get the benefits of them forever, not just for 5-10 years and then up we go, we move to, we hover the planet and we move to another corner. So, and the interesting thing that we have not worked on it systematically for years is that there's huge benefits both in the creation of new jobs, sorry. There's huge benefits in fighting injustice, social injustice and social gaps, the gaps between the rich and the poor, and also social cohesion. So by adopting another way of looking at things, which is different to fast gain, and then who cares about the day after, the society, the local society, is getting out as a winner. So that's why it's important, and that's why it's linked to the previous point, to make sure that local society is engaging into the debate, into the discussion, into the shaping of the management plan. So both science and local communities are there to find out the best solution. Floor is yours, Enrico. I'm done. Thank you.
Your message is a gold message for me. I agree 100% of what you are saying. And the key question is how can we obtain that this message could become a reality? Does it mean that I agree we need to work together, but you have a very, very long experience inside Greenpeace. You start with a small group, now you have a very, again, Greenpeace Greece, it is a very well-known entity, and the question is how you suggest us, just being a very young association, that we have a lot of passion, but how can we obtain from you some help on how we could implement what your goal message is?
Clear question. I refer to, so I'm going back to point 2 of my presentation. There's no one who's out of this game. It's not just Greenpeace. And Greenpeace cannot be present in any single part of the country. I can name you 10 or 20 in a row where there's similar challenges. What we need to do is better networking and more efficient networking in order to understand and to find best practices, to find learnings, to share learnings around the country. You can argue that there's better learnings in Costa Rica. I would then argue that, yeah, try to translate them and try to transfer them to Greece. So you need to understand in different societies how things work. There's many organizations just in Peloponnese. There's plenty of initiatives, many initiatives working fragmented in different parts, in Finicunda, in Kyparissia, in Neapolis. So instead of trying to find a super duper supplier of knowledge and expertise, a super hub, better trust on a local network and try to see what on top of that you need. In any case, you also need to remember that, as you said, you need passion, yes, because it will take time, it will take energy, it will take your money. That's how it works for years to get there. It will also take you to engage from the beginning with local communities, because they are the ones that at the end of the day will be the guardians and the custodians of the area.
Θα ήθελα να πω το εξής. Ουσιαστικά, Ενρίκο, κανείς δεν μπορεί να τα καταφέρει μόνος του. Αυτό που σίγουρα χρειάζεται είναι δικτύωση. Μία αποτελεσματική δικτύωση, έτσι ώστε να μπορέσουμε να εντοπίσουμε καλύτερα και τις βέλτιστες πρακτικές. Θα μπορούσε κάποιος να πει ότι ναι, γιατί να μην αναπαράξουμε τις βέλτιστες πρακτικές που υιοθετεί και που έχει χρησιμοποιήσει η Κώστα Ρίκα. Το ζήτημα είναι ότι προφανώς οι συνθήκες είναι εντελώς διαφορετικές και προφανώς η κουλτούρα και εντελώς διαφορετική μεταξύ, για παράδειγμα, της Πελοποννήσου και των κατοίκων της Κώστα Ρίκα. Άρα λοιπόν, ναι, αυτή τη στιγμή υπάρχουν διάφορες προσπάθειες κατακαιρματισμένες στην Κυπαρισία, στη Φινικούντα. Δεν απαιτούμε και δεν ψάχνουμε την τέλεια γνώση και την τέλεια λύση. Αυτό που χρειάζεται είναι η δημιουργία ενός τοπικού δικτύου και σίγουρα χρειάζεται η συμμετοχή των ντόπιων κατοίκων. Από τη μία, ναι, το δικό σας πάθος είναι απαραίτητο. Σίγουρα θα δαπανηθούν χρήματα, αυτό είναι γεγονός και για κάποια χρόνια θα είναι τα χρήματα αυτά αρκετά, αλλά πρέπει να πείσουμε τους ντόπιους να εισφέρουν σε όλη αυτή τη διαδικασία, γιατί ούτως ή άλλως αυτοί θα είναι οι άνθρωποι οι οποίοι ουσιαστικά θα προστατέψουν το δικό τους τόπο.
One point, or just to add, Nikos, it is that we have here with us on the network and on working together on partnership. We have 6 volunteers. They are with us in this period. And in the summertime, we'll have a proscopy, that is scout in French and in Belgium. They could help our activity. I have with me one of our volunteers, is Julie, and he said, can I make a question to Mr. Nico? He said, no problem. I give the floor and the microphone to her.
Thank you. Hello. I wanted to ask you, for everybody here, do you have an advice to act as a person in our everyday life? What can we do to save the planet? What can be the more efficient in an individual action every day? Or many, I don't know.
I will answer. Thank you for the question. And I read your genuine and organic anxiety in understanding what the hell should I do? I mean, what should I do differently? And it's something that makes us suffer. So my first suggestion is start by enjoying life for what it is. Enjoy your everyday. Understand that life is a gift. What you see out there in Elafonisos is a gift, is a precious thing that you need to protect, you need to preserve, because it offers you joy, pleasure, happiness. We cannot just protect life by suffering. So we need, first of all, to enjoy life. The second is talking about options of things you can do in your daily life, as long as you don't do it by victimizing yourself and torturing yourself because you don't do it all. The sky is the limit. There's an endless list of things you can do, from biking, not recycling. The recycling is a joke. I mean, give me a break. Reducing the waste you produce, composting, getting against fast fashion, don't eating meat, eating local, eating things that on their time. I mean, eating more vegetables and fruits. The list is endless. The list is endless. You can go extreme, like producing zero waste. Up to you. What I will suggest also is that no matter how you victimize yourself and you torture yourself in a kind of more Protestant way because you have not done enough, there's always a need for work to be done by local authorities and central government. If they don't offer the systems, you will suffer a lot with very little result. I mean, I can collect all plastics that I'm not using, but if there is no proper, efficient, and effective system that takes them and not just throws them next corner, next gorge, but recycles, does separation properly and recycles them or reuses or whatever, it's not going to work. So there are many things we can do ourselves. There are other things that we need to put pressure in governments to take their responsibility, because it's their job. They have a job to do. And we cannot ignore this player. It's a big player who's actually operating with our money as taxpayers. So we need to put pressure on them. Does it help?
Θα ήθελα λοιπόν να πω ότι θα μπορούσα να δώσω δεκάδες συμβουλές και σίγουρα ακούω την πολύ αυθεντική αγωνία σου σε σχέση με το τι μπορούμε να κάνουμε για να προστατεύσουμε το περιβάλλον. Σε κάθε περίπτωση αυτό που θέλω να πω, και είναι το κεντρικό μήνυμα, ότι πρέπει να αγαπάμε και να απολαύσουμε αυτή τη ζωή που έχουμε. Η ζωή είναι ένα θείο δώρο. Ο πλανήτης είναι ένα θείο δώρο. Η Ελαφώνησος είναι ένα θείο δώρο. Οπότε χρειάζεται προφανώς να προστατευτεί, χρειάζεται να χαρούμε αυτόν τον πλανήτη, να χαρούμε αυτόν τον τόπο, να νιώσουμε ευτυχισμένοι γύρω από αυτόν. Δεν είμαστε εδώ για να υποφέρουμε προσπαθώντας να σώσουμε τον πλανήτη. Τι πρέπει να κάνουμε? Δεν τίθεται θέμα θυματοποίησης. Υπάρχουν χιλιάδες πράγματα που πρέπει να γίνουν. Χιλιάδες, εκατοντάδες. Η λίστα ανατελής. Ο περιορισμός της ρύπανσης. Δεν ξέρω, να τρώμε ντόπια φρούτα και λαχανικά. Να φτάσουμε σε μια διαδικασία zero waste. Να τρώμε ντόπια προϊόντα. Δεν ξέρω, να μην τρώμε πάρα πολύ κρέας. Ο καθένας μπορεί να κάνει οτιδήποτε μπορεί να φανταστεί. Σε κάθε περίπτωση όμως αυτό που είναι απαραίτητο είναι η συμμετοχή της τοπικής αρχής, των τοπικών αρχών. Δεν μπορούμε εμείς να λύσουμε όλα τα προβλήματα. Ακόμα και αν μαζέψουμε όλα τα σκουπίδια από όλες τις παραλίες του κόσμου, δεν μπορούμε μόνοι μας εμείς τους πολίτες να κάνουμε πράγματα. Χρειάζεται να υπάρχει διαδικασία που θα ακολουθούν οι τοπικές κοινωνίες και κυρίως, ξαναλέω, οι τοπικοί άρχοντες. Θα πρέπει να γίνεται, για παράδειγμα, διαχωρισμός, θα πρέπει να γίνεται επαναχρησιμοποίηση, ανακύκλωση. Δεν αρκεί εμείς απλώς να μαζεύουμε τα πλαστικά και μετά να μην κάνουν αυτά που πρέπει οι εκλεγμένοι. Θα πρέπει λοιπόν να είμαστε πολύ κοντά και να προσέχουμε τι κάνουν και αυτοί, γιατί ας μην ξεχνάμε, λειτουργούν με τα χρήματα των φορολογουμένων, δηλαδή τα δικά μας χρήματα.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. It was very complete. Thank you.
Do you have still 5 minutes with us? Ευχαριστώ πολύ. I have two questions. First one, just to have your feeling that I'm very open, very transparent. Greenpeace was in beginning just a body that try to change the world, and my feeling was you were quite unique, alone, and your way of doing. If I understand well, when you talk about networking, about working together, you are moving, from my perspective, from being one organization that was provocative in order to obtain something, to be an organization that could network with others.
Από αυτά που άκουσα και γνωρίζοντας εδώ και πάρα πολλά χρόνια το έργο της Greenpeace, θεωρούσα πάντοτε ότι ήταν μια οργάνωση που προσπαθούσε ουσιαστικά να αλλάξει τον κόσμο. Μια πραγματικά και ουσιαστικά μοναδική προσπάθεια. Από αυτά που άκουσα από σένα σήμερα, αναφέρθηκες πάρα πολύ στη σημασία της δικτύωσης. Φαντάζομαι εννοείς ότι δεν αρκεί απλώς να λειτουργείτε ως μια μονάδα, ως μια οργάνωση, αλλά νομίζω ότι υπερθεμάτισες τη σημασία της δικτύωσης και αυτό θέλουμε και εμείς να πετύχουμε.
Your answer?
Η αντίδρασή σου απάντησε σε αυτό.
This was a statement, Enrico, and a correct statement. There was no question. Anyway, if I need to turn it to a question, yes, the answer is yes. Greenpeace was founded under totally different social and political conditions. This has evolved from the heroes of hanging and stopping, blocking ships and whatever. This is happening. This is happening all around the globe. There's younger activists doing the same thing, and that's fantastic. Greenpeace has been raising the flag of climate change 30 years ago, and climate change is now the main topic in the political agenda. So we need to move forward and see what is the new role of Greenpeace. If I want to be challenging even myself, but you too, I would argue that climate change is on the top of the political agenda. So what? Did we stop emitting CO2? Actually, emissions are still growing. So we still have a long way to go. And the realization from Greenpeace is that we cannot do anything alone. I mean, the big challenges we are facing, and I'm not talking about local challenges that need to be up to local communities and local initiatives, but global challenges like deforestation, like the whole agriculture system, food and agriculture system, like climate, ozone layer, oceans. This is something that cannot be dealt locally. So we need to find these links to build and maintain these links, local, national, global. And yes, the value of networking, the value of all of us being there, even by losing our identity and identifying and creating and finding new roles, that's part of the equation, correct?
Θα ήθελα να πω ότι, ναι, για να απαντήσω και να το κάνω ερώτημα αυτή την δήλωσή σου τελικά, Ενρίκο, να πω ότι η Greenpeace δημιουργήθηκε πολλά χρόνια πριν υπό άλλες κοινωνικοπολιτικές συνθήκες. Ο ακτιβισμός ήταν και παραμένει ενεργός. Εμείς ξεκινήσαμε να μιλάμε για την κλιματική αλλαγή εδώ και 30 χρόνια. Και ναι, βεβαίως σήμερα βλέπουμε ότι είναι το πρώτο θέμα στην ατζέντα της διεθνούς πολιτικής, το ζήτημα της κλιματικής αλλαγής. Αλλά αυτό που βλέπουμε είναι ότι οι εκπομπές διοξειδίου του άνθρακα, αντί να μειώνονται, συνεχίζουν να αυξάνονται. Άρα λοιπόν, ναι, προφανώς δεν είμαστε μόνοι μας, αλλά τα προβλήματα είναι ακόμα εκεί και είναι παγκόσμια πλέον, είναι προβλήματα παγκόσμια, οικουμενικά. Μιλάμε για αποψήλωση των δασών, μιλάμε για τους ωκεανούς. Όλα αυτά όμως πλέον δεν μπορούν να επιληθούν από μία οργάνωση. Οπότε, ναι, η δικτύωση και η συνεργασία είναι λέξεις κλειδιά. Πρέπει να συνεχίσουμε να υπάρχει μία συσχέτιση μεταξύ του τοπικού, του εθνικού και του υπερεθνικού. Ναι στη δικτύωση, ναι στις προσπάθειες που θα γίνουν από κοινού.
Second point, I believe, Nikos. First one, thanks a lot for your transparency and your real openness on your speech and your way of thinking. We are a very young association. We try to do our best. Can I ask you if you could be part of our network? You are saying that in the Peloponnese there is a lot of other association activity. You have a big experience. We are just a baby as an organization in front of you. Can you help us in this area, number one? And number two, I believe that your authority, it is so strong, and your brand, Greenpeace, it is so strong, that this kind of message, if you could help us coming once in Elafonis, not when it is windy day, but with a sunny day, in order to have, we could organize a meeting with the municipality, because I believe that having what we believe as it is exactly what we are saying. If we say something, we are seeing just a young organization that try to change. You, with your experience, your word are bold experience, are bold word.
Θα ήθελα λοιπόν να σε ευχαριστήσω για αυτό την ευρύτητα πνεύματος που έχεις. Εμείς, όπως αντιλαμβάνεσαι, είμαστε ένας πολύ νέος, ένας πολύ φρέσκος οργανισμός. Θα ήταν χαρά και τιμή για εμάς αν θα μπορούσες και αν θα ήθελες κι εσύ ως Greenpeace και ατομικά να συμμετάσχεις σε αυτό το δικό μας δίκτυο. Είμαστε εν τη γενέση του, ένας οργανισμός σε βρεφική ηλικία, οπότε θα χρειαστούμε πολύ τη βοήθεια και την τεχνογνωσία που έχει ένα brand, μια επωνυμία, ένας οργανισμός όπως το Greenpeace. Θα ήταν πραγματικά τιμή για εμάς αν μπορέσουμε κάποια στιγμή, προφανώς όχι με τέτοιο καιρό, όταν θα είναι καλύτερος ο καιρός, να έρθει στην Ελαφώνησο και να κάνουμε μια συνάντηση με την Δήμαρχο, την κυρία Λιάρου, για να δούμε πώς μπορούμε πραγματικά να κάνουμε ακόμα καλύτερα κάποια πράγματα για να προστατέψουμε το νησί.
Να ξεκινήσω με τον... sorry. Συγγνώμη, κύριε μεταφραστή. Κάνατε εξαιρετική δουλειά κιόλας. Ευχαριστώ και για την υπομονή σας. Enrico, let me start with the comment about the weather. The weather, it is what it is. It's not good or bad. So we need to cope with that. Sun, wind, rain, it's fine. That's not what stops us from... It's time. You know that. I mean, I would love to be there with you, and not just me, others too, but time is a pain, whatever. To continue being blunt and helpful to you, I question if Greenpeace is the helpful player in your young initiative. You start an initiative full of energy, passion, and Greenpeace is a player that carries a brand that is far away, is detached from all local happenings. And this will not change. Greenpeace could help you, for instance, in organizing volunteer groups. I argue that there are other groups in Greece that have bigger experience. Like I saw in your program that you have also Archelon speaking. I mean, they bring 600 volunteers per year minimum. So they've got a long experience on how you maintain this pool of people, how you bring them, how you maintain them, how you treat them, how you build a relation with the other more experienced groups. We can have a one-to-one and try to give you all the connections we have and the contacts we have with other groups that you need to get in touch with and try and find ways to cope and help each other. Because as we said before, none of us alone can change things. And even not just in big things, the same applies in smaller things. I'll give you my very personal history. Even before joining Greenpeace, I was working for the sea turtle protection in Zakynthos. The turning point there was not the intervention of Greenpeace. The turning point was that more than 20 local stakeholders, fishermen, farmers, hoteliers, NGOs, environmental NGOs, local, national, international, sat together and said, this is the type of the minimum type of measures we agree on. And this was the core of the protection measures of the area. But this was owned by this big group of stakeholders. So there's knowledge there where you can benefit from. As for the chance and the opportunity to visit the Lafonissos, give me a break. You know that I want it more than you, but let's make the time and make it happen. Okay? Thanks for the invitation anyway, Enrico.
Nikos, thanks a lot. I believe that your message is very clear. We try to interiorize all your message and to have them becoming operational. And thanks for your help to help us to be in contact with other organizations. And one main point that I see in you, the fact you act that you have in Greenpeace for a long time, you are the more younger way of thinker in your speech, in your way of doing, and the reason why it is something that you have obtained to change, because most of the people say that you must change, but I don't change. Here, you have done a fantastic job inside Greenpeace. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the kind words, Enrico.
Νίκο, σε ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Πραγματικά είσαι ένα παράδειγμα ανθρώπου που κατάφερε όχι απλώς να λέει ότι πρέπει οι άλλοι να αλλάξουμε, αλλά άλλαξε ο ίδιος. Και ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για το γεγονός ότι μας είπες ότι θα μας φέρεις σε επαφή με ανθρώπους, με γνωριμίες που έχεις, να έχουμε και εμείς τις απαραίτητα contacts, έτσι ώστε να μπορέσει ο οργανισμός μας να ενισχυθεί, να ενδυναμωθεί και να μπορέσει να κάνει πράγματα από σε ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.
Καλή συνέχεια, παιδιά. Bye bye, Enrico. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks a lot. Now we have the next slot with WWF, and we have Konstantinos, our friend. They will give us the WWF view, what they're doing in Greece, and also how we could partner with them. They have, again, everybody know WWF, and I believe that what you said, Nikos, now it is networking together with other associations. It is a very important point for the future.
Όπως είπε λοιπόν και ο Νίκος, είναι πολύ σημαντική δικτύωση. Για το λόγο αυτό έχουμε και εμείς προσκεκλημένο τον Κωνσταντίνο Τσουκαλά από την WWF Greece, για να μπορέσει και αυτός να εισφέρει στην κουβέντα μας και να δούμε πώς μπορούμε όλοι μαζί να βοηθήσουμε την Ελαφώνησο έτσι ώστε να προστατευτεί όπως της αξίζει.